In chapter 338, we had the last meeting between Gon and Killua.
カイトも言ってたよ。俺たちどこにいても仲間だから。お
Aluka told Gon that she would allow him to play with Killua and take him again after spending some time with him. Then, after the two parted in a wonderfully dramatic scene, Gon climbed the world tree to meet his father. In a strange scene, Gon, while climbing the tree, said something important that I want you to remember with me because we will need it in the future. When Gon touched the tree, he said, "What an amazing tree. When I place my hand on a spot, I feel it pulsating with life and guiding me upwards." After that, Gon reached Ging, and the two talked about the Dark Continent and Ging's goal in going there. Ging then told him that he wanted to go to the Dark Continent, but he needed 4 things initially: permission, means, qualifications, and a contract. He then added that he didn't possess any of these things currently, but he wasn't in a hurry and was enjoying his journey and its small detours, saying that you could find something great in these detours. To explain this example to those who don't understand it, Gon is the best example. His goal was to find Ging, and the detours in this search were represented in most of the Hunter x Hunter arcs, starting from the Hunter exam, going to the Zoldyck family's residence, training in Heaven's Arena, then what happened in Greed Island, and the Chimera Ants.
わかんねえか。じゃ、もう少し話すか。
Gon enjoyed his detours amidst his journey to find his father, and we saw all of this in the story arcs. Ging continued his words and said, "If you choose a path similar to mine, then be sure to enjoy your journey, for you may stumble upon something more important in the detours of this path." Gon understood his words all along, for in the end, he found Killua, Leorio, and Kurapika, and lived through all those challenges and trials because of the journey he started to find Ging.
栄養が足りなくて、これしか育たなかった。
After that, in chapter 345, Gon called Ging again and told him that he couldn't see or feel his aura. And here, I was somewhat surprised why he called Ging specifically. Yes, Ging is a great hunter and everything, but the question here is why didn't he call Killua, for example? Killua was the one who healed him with Nanika. This implies that, in Gon's view at that time, the reason must have been related to what Nanika did and how she healed him. So, out of his teacher wing, his other teacher Biscuit, and Killua, he only called Ging. Here Ging told him that when they were together, Gon's aura was normal and he could see it, and what happened to him was simply that he had returned to normal. This means that when Killua asked Nanika to heal him, he told her to return him to the state he was in before, meaning after he learned Nen, but as a normal human whose shoko pores hadn't been opened yet. This is a point that many overlook. Gon simply returned to being normal. He didn't lose his aura. Nen aura is the state of life or life energy. Anyone who loses their aura dies. Anyway, Ging then told Gon that he had already given up everything to win against P2, and that returning to being a normal person at this stage wasn't a bad deal, and he should be grateful for it. In colloquial terms, you sacrificed your life, body, soul, and aura to defeat P2. You gave up living with your friends, seeing your aunt, searching for Ging, and everything else just to defeat P2, so don't complain about something small like not being able to use your aura. You learned Nen in less than a month, meaning it won't take you less than a week now to reactivate your Nen memory and open your shoko pores again. Ging continued his words and told him that it was a good opportunity for him to figure out his next goal. So relax, relearn Nen, think about what you want to do, and then come to me. Gon in this call, he was mostly with Kite, and after the call he went to his hometown on Whale Island and met his aunt. There, we will find out why Gon called Ging. Mito-san asks, "Weren't you eager to go on that trip with Ging?" Here, I was surprised. What trip with Ging? Here, it is clear that Gon was going to go with Ging on his journey to the Dark Continent, and he decided this after they talked at the top of the tree. We were not informed of all the details of the conversation. Later, he told Mito-san about it over the phone, but because he returned from the island and didn't go to Ging, she asked him this question. This is the reason for Gon's call to Ging, and his question about his problem in using Nen other than his own. Gon wanted to go with his father, but because the shoko pores in his body were closed, he couldn't, and he informed Ging of this over the phone, as we saw. After that, Gon said he would only hinder Ging if he went with him, and that in in a state, read well, in a state where he was able to use Nen again, he might go with Ging. Then he continued his words to Mito-san and said that the reason he was thinking of going with Ging was not because Ging was his father and the idea of "This is my father, and I want to be with him." No, he doesn't see Ging as a father figure at all, but rather as a wonderful person he wants to know about and learn from. He calls him Ging, not dad or father. His journey in the beginning was not to find his father, but to know the reason his father left for something called a hunter. After Gon became a hunter like his father and learned about the pleasure, world, and environment of this profession, he understood Ging. Therefore, he said to Mito-san that he resembles Ging. He is a bad father, and I, in turn, am a bad son. All he wants is to be near this man, to see his condition, his strength, and his magnificence, not to feel the warmth of a father. Therefore, from all these dialogues, we must agree that Gon is 1,000,000,000% going to set foot on the Dark Continent, and he will have another meeting with Ging. We will discuss Gon's idea of going to the continent, and whether he is qualified after we finish narrating the events. Stay with me.
言葉が通じるなら早いや。
More than a month or two later, that is, after the time period between Hisoka killing Shalnark and Kotopi and the departure for the Dark Continent, a discussion took place between the Zodiacs and some hunters regarding an important matter. As we know, due to Novu's inability to assist the team heading to the Dark Continent with his ability, they enlisted another hunter named Tokariane. This hunter possesses a teleportation ability of lesser quality than Novu. This hunter asked the Zodiacs to find 2 or 3 people to help with the teleportation. Then, the Snake Zodiac replied that they were currently searching, but it wasn't easy. Then we jumped to the new chapter, in which Togashi once again stirred controversy regarding Gon's return to the events when the Spiders allied with the Mafia. One of the Mafia members is a huge fan of the Spiders. This fan wanted to get the Spiders' autographs on special autograph paper, but this paper is never found in the ship's stores. Through this, Togashi hinted at the existence of a store called Eurozia. This store offers a very expensive service for the wealthy on the ship, which is to bring any item from the small world to the ship, but with one condition, that the ship has not yet exceeded the limits of maritime transport. This means that this fan has a 3-day window if he wants to obtain this autograph paper. Whether you agree with me that Gon might come with this service at someone's request or not, you are obligated to believe that another character is coming via this service, because Togashi would never create this entire scenario and connect the small world to the ship just for a very minor character who wants to get an autograph. This must be an agreement between everyone. This service, or the Eurozia store, is located on the first level, which is where Kurapika is currently. What I will do next is mention some logical ways and reasons to bring Gon into the Succession War arc, as well as discuss some common obstacles among fans regarding this matter, because I know many are against it, but hear me out until the end. First point. This arc is Kurapika arc, and Gon has no goal or meaning on the ship initially. Yes, the arc is 100% Kurapika, but bringing Gon onto the ship wouldn't clash with this. The York New City arc, for example, was Kurapika's main arc, but at the same time, Gon's presence didn't spoil things. Rather, it made it better. If you suspect that Gon's presence might overshadow Kurapika, you are underestimating Togashi's writing. Second point. At the beginning of the journey, Kurapika lost all the guards, spies, and hunters who were with him, and only Bill remained. Due to this lack of personnel, Kurapika lost 5 years of his life and was forced to ally with the 3rd and 5th princes and begin teaching Nen, all just to create a stalemate in the Succession War and compensate for his lack of manpower. Therefore, bringing Gon and asking for his support doesn't seem bad, impossible, or story-ruining at all. Also, remember Hunter Tokariane's request that she needs 1 or 2 people to accompany her on the journey. Who knows? It might be Gon. Gon is well known among hunters after the Chimera Ant War. From Gon's conversations with Ging, Mito, and Killua, I think we all agree that Gon wants to go with his father, and that his foot will be on the Dark Continent sooner or later. The journey to the Dark Continent takes more than a month and a half or 2 months. If he doesn't catch up now, when will he? Also, Morel's presence might mean the presence of Knuckle and Shoot, so somewhat adding Gon to the events of the Succession War, or paving the way for him to enter the Dark Continent arc, doesn't seem bad or impossible at all.
変だよね。
Here we come to a frequently repeated argument, which I initially agreed with, that Gon is not strong enough for the Dark Continent, as that place is more dangerous than the Chimera Ants. We are talking about the 5 great calamities. As I told you, I completely agreed with this statement, but after re-watching some scenes, especially in the Chimera Ant arc, allow me, Gon developed a lot. Remember how he had the upper hand against Pitou and Poof? He made 2 royal guards stand, listen, and obey his words. Remember the terrifying scene when the hunters attacked the palace and met Youpi? At that time, the plan was for Gon and Killua to head to Pitou's location and leave the confrontation with Youpi to knuckle and shoot. But in a single moment, Gon dashed towards Youpi because he realized faster than everyone there, in a split second, that Knuckle and the lizard might be hit by the dragon dive attack, thus potentially ruining the plan. Morao, who was going to the Dark Continent, said at that moment, "How did I miss something like that?" Or, "How could Gon reach that conclusion and compensate for the deficit faster than me?" Wing also mentioned more than once that Gon is a monster, so in reality, this character's development is terrifying. If Morao was going to the Dark Continent, then Gon's presence isn't difficult to imagine either. Sorry, but after re-watching the Chimera Ant arc, Gon is on another level entirely. Just because he returned to his cheerful demeanor and cute expressions, we forgot what this monster did in the Chimera Ant arc and the experience he gained there. Netero also, when he saw Gon above the palace, pointed him towards Pitou with a confident smile, because he knew Gon's abilities well and the terrifying bloodline of the Freecss. Another point is that Ging said that Beyond's team, or any team going to the Dark Continent, must consist of exactly 25 members. This relatively means that when I say Gon will go to the Dark Continent, whether with the Zodiacs or anyone else, he won't go individually, meaning he won't go empty-handed, but as part of a team where he will be one of the strengths and will be compatible with them. And the last point, remember the conversation about the tree that I mentioned at the beginning of the video? Gon is someone who grew up on an island, grew up in nature, someone knowledgeable about the forest, plants, and animals. For example, you saw how during his date with Palm, he gave her that branch, and luminous insects gathered on it. Also at the Zoldyck Gate, that wolf attacked him, and he tamed it quickly. Remember the magical beasts that disguised themselves as humans, and how Gon knew that the one chasing him was different from the first person. Remember how he held his breath in the penultimate test to save his friends. So, in reality, nature is Gon's favorite playground. Here, I am not comparing the creatures and nature of the Dark Continent with the nature and creatures of the small world. I am just giving you the idea that Gon has this distinction that he can build upon for his future strength and experience in the Dark Continent. These nature battles, you feel Gon is capable of proving himself there. Netero's words about the Dark Continent being a place where only the struggle against harsh nature exists give you the idea that this is the Freecss' home ground. This is their specialization. So whether you agree with me that Gon must return, whether through another arc or through the Succession War arc, we must agree that Gon, Ging, Gon Freecss, and the Dark Continent are things that must come together. Also, guys, let's be honest with each other. This wonderful story cannot end without our 4 main characters reuniting.